We're going to go out to the National Park, and from the map there's two options, and I'm trying to keep us all together if I can. But when we get up to the upper car park, or way up to the top, if anyone knows it, we have an option to go up the side of the mountain if we want to, or anyone that wants to, or we stay on the road on the lower level and come back down, so it's completely up to yourself. So I'll have most of my talking done at that stage anyway. So anyway, you're very welcome. It's great to see such a support and people coming out again. So I just wanted to cover again the whole thing of the history of the area and some of the ecology. And of course, Gougane Barra, being famous for St. Finbar, who everyone should know is the first bishop of Cork. And you'd wonder, like, why the hell would he have come away up in here sometime around the 6th century and developed some sort of retreat on the island, we believe, even though it isn't clear cut. But at that time, this whole place would have been a huge forest. There wouldn't have been anyone living up here in the 6th century. It was complete wilderness, whereas last week we were looking at St. Gougane and she came to convert people. So it was an actual much more active place. Whereas here, it was a bit more being a bit like the Skelligs, into total isolation and retreat. And of course the place was full of wolves, so obviously the island would have been very significant from that point of view, from a protectionist point of view. And they were very, very conscious of being attacked as well, of course, as the years progressed, especially after the Vikings and things like that. And you'd think that they were trapped inside here in this huge coombe of Gougane Barra. But hopefully I'll be able to point it out to you. As you go up there, there was a secret staircase built into the cliffs that went right up the side, and you could run up there and escape over into the Borland Valley before anyone actually had time to find you. So it had its own magic. So anyway, that's just a little bit of introduction to St. Finbar. I want to move more back into just what's unique about it from a geological point of view and the botanical point of view. So we're going to progress into the National Park, and there's no charge going in as we're all walking. We'll congregate again inside at the first car park by the toilets. And anyone who needs to ask me anything about botany or whatever, just fire away. So, okay, we'll head off.
Everybody got a map?
So we're in Gougane Barra. It's National Park.
Everybody got their maps? Hey guys.
The Survival Ridge. The usual suspect. Right. Talk to me a bit.
But I said I'd try and explain as much as the nature as possible. And there are a few people with buggies there, I presume they're with us. So look, we just make sure we leave any traffic in the road. And I'm just going to explain to you a small bit more about Gougane Barra. Some very interesting stuff about the place. So, no, a lot of people would have been here before, and maybe some people have never been here. But what's interesting about the Gougane Barra forest park, as we call it, after the Second World War, it was decided that Ireland had so few trees left that we'd need to start developing forestry. And Gougane Barra, they managed to acquire the coombe, and it was set up almost as an experimental station. And what you've actually got inside here was quite a lot of different varieties of conifers. They brought in conifers thinking at the time, they knew at the time that the conifers are faster growing, and rather than planting native trees, whatever. So they actually brought in trees from right around the globe, from the North Pacific, of course, Canada, Japan, and Norway. So you've got the lodgepole pine, you've got the Sitka spruce, you've western hemlocks. They put in larch, and that was just after the Second World War, the late 40s, early 50s, and they put in different banks of them, they left them grow away, and of course very quickly they spotted that the Sitka spruce was the one that grew the fastest. And that's why then the Quita would have, and the forest would have moved into the actual, or developed their plantations mostly with Sitka spruce at the time. And then this place was turned into our first forest park in Ireland. So it has that distinction, and has been developed then obviously for its trails and so on and so forth over the years ahead. But it's, as I said, from that point of view, it's the original experimental station to find out what was the best tree to actually try and grow. Now that has changed again since, but at the time that's where it comes from. And the only problem with citrus spruce isn't very, very conducive to wildlife. But obviously it was looked on as a commercial venture, and that's where it stands. So hopefully you can see now they've actually a few signs of different places where they've actually even named the different varieties of trees. And you'll be a sort of lodgepole pine, which didn't do extremely well. You can see they're not great, they're here a long time, they never grew very well. They're extremely vulnerable to wind throw, and when you get up to the top of the mountain, if we do get up there, you'll see a lot of the actual lodgepole pine giants. They just weren't very suitable. And when we go in now, like the Sitka spruce here at the next bend, they grow into massive trees, as the larch did, and as did the actual western hemlock. So sorry we left you behind.
Oh yeah,
sorry, we were late.
And
You've cut off.
you're very welcome. And as long as you met Sarah anyway was the main thing.
Yeah, we did.
And there's a few more. So anyway, look, we'll move on again, and I'm just going to talk about a bit about the botany when we get in by the toilets, and we'll be leaving the track then, and we'll follow the course of the Lee up through a lovely little path that we've developed up along through the forest itself.
Survival Ridge in a camouflage hat. Whoa.
May I get you over here again, please? Anyway, this is actually the western hemlock pine trees. You can see the width of it. They're after growing up to be magnificent timber. The Sitka spruce, very rapidly growing, but not the best timber. But anyway, without getting into the thing about the trees too much, which I'll explain a little bit later on, I just wanted to explain one other fascinating thing about Gougane Barra is the whole thing of the glaciation. And the rocks here are all red sandstone. And our last glaciation, really, about 10,000 years ago, was concentrated in the Cock and Kerry Mountains, right up there between here and Kenmare, whatever. So there was glaciers actually came down here and so on down the Lee Valley. And of course anyone who's a bit of a farmland down there with lovely alluvial soil or sand, like all the sand pits down the Lee Valley, because the glaciers actually created all that and deposited it. So anyone who will be into geology, they love coming here because the glacial features are still incredibly fresh, and compared to a lot of places in Europe where they wouldn't have had that last ice age. And in fact, anyone who, when you leave here and go up onto the main road and turn up to your right, you go on for Bantry, and you go up through the gorge there, the old, or the Passage Caymane as we call it. That's an overflow channel, a beautifully carved overflow channel from that time of glaciation. And basically when the glaciers went out over into Bantry Bay, and as the ice was melting, a huge lake formed behind the glaciers, backing up in here to the back of the mountain. And it couldn't get out into the sea because the glaciers were still out there. And what happened then was that huge lake cut a channel back down through the lower point of the ridge. And that whole gorge that you see there called the Passage Caymane, that's a geological overflow channel created by a huge flood that came down and down into the Lee Valley to join the river, and obviously added to the deluge that went down the Lee Valley. So it's interesting when you look up the next time you're passing up through the Passage Caymane, even though it's harder now to see with all the trees coming back, what a unique geological feature it is. You'd be saying it looks like it was carved by a river, but that doesn't seem right when it's up so high. But it was for a short period as the ice ages melted. And of course then there's a whole lot of other interesting features around here. And this part up here is called Green Valley Desmond. And of course anyone who knows that lovely poem by J.J. Callanan on Gougane Barra, we all do, in Lone Gougane Barra, there is a green isle in Lone Gougane Barra where a lua of song rushes forth like an arrow, and Green Valley Desmond, a 1,000 young fountains come down to that lake from their home in the mountains, which is a lovely poem that describes this lovely area. But the other interesting feature about the Valley Desmond here is the cliffs up here, and going back to the time of the War of Independence, when there was a huge effort to try and catch the rebels. They formed a line of soldiers basically almost from Dunmanway up to Mill Street, and they started cornering them in. And the boys, the IRA, what we want to call them at the time, in 1916-17, started running this way, and they were forcing him down in towards the coast where they'd eventually trap him, either in Mizzen, maybe or Sheep's Head. But of course the boys came in here in the dead of night. The English couldn't really come in here because they didn't think, well, there's no way they'd come over here at night. But what they did was they came down the side here, but they actually did pitch darkness. They actually made a human chain with the lads and their guns, and they made a chain all the way down, and the guy in the top then had sealed the bodies, and he'd come down to the bottom end, and they eventually got down here and got back out, and of course they were never copped, and the English eventually caught down towards the coast, and the boys were after vanishing, and they could never figure it out. But it was down the Valley Desmond, that's where they came, which was the last place they'd expect. Okay, look, we'll move on a little bit, and then we're going to move on to the young River Lee, and I'll be pointing out some of the unusual plants that grow around here, which is specifically the Lusitanians, because the Upper Lee Valley was always famous for its botany, and all the old naturalists of all the 18th century, 19th century, they always had great grow for the Upper Lee Valley because it's an unusual collection of plants, none more so than the Lusitanians, that group of plants that seem to have survived from before that ice age that I just talked about. Okay, we move on a little bit, and I'll be poking out from this here.
Kevin knows his stuff, that's for sure. Right, we're off again. Quite a good crowd. Talk to you soon.
Alright, anyway, don't want to be stopping too often, but just again to explain a few points and let everyone catch up along for everyone. You can see now anyway we're inside in the conifers here, and anyone who plants a Christmas tree, just make sure you understand this is how big it's going to grow, you know. But 1948, 1950-ish, I walked around correctly one day, but there's a bit of variation because they were planted over a number of years. So they're the Sitka spruce. There was ones just out there as we came in where we turned in and where the balloons were. They were the actual western hemlock, mighty trees and really good timber as well. The larch, unfortunately, has all been removed, and they've replanted it now with deciduous trees like oak and stuff. But the outside the recreation point of view, obviously it was for commercial purposes, and once you get rid of all the lower branches you find straight timber with no knots and you get good planks out of it. But if you look around ecologically, the nature underneath the trees is so limited. They don't support any great amount of wildlife. Mostly mosses, a few ferns and a few species of grasses, and that's about it. The biodiversity in places like this is very low. And it's only here now because it's been tinned out and the trees have grown up, but when we pass some of the other conifer plantations, it's completely sterile inside. So that's why a lot of people don't like them from a nature point of view. They don't actually support any great biodiversity. And the other problem with them is the amount of needles they produce. There's no natural sort of fungus or such or bacterium that breaks them down so well. So all these conifer needles build up, and they so acidify the soil, they actually prevent an awful lot of natural stuff growing, and even when it gets into the water becomes very acidic in upland areas, and that kills off an awful lot of insects. So from a sort of nature point of view, they have a very negative effect. So that's why there has been calls for the forestry companies to try and move away from just completely Sitka spruce and start trying to put in a few deciduous trees at least and try and get a balance, which is happening in a lot of other European countries. They have a much more advanced forestry policy where they actually try and look after both the environment as well as actually developing it commercially. So, but having said that now anyway, as we move up along the stream, it will be the lower path. We will hopefully, I'll be able to show you some of the unique actual Lusitanian species. some already people will have noticed the St. Patrick's cabbages out all over the place with all those lovely white yellow flowers. But up along some of the rocky cliffs here, we should be able to find some of the very rare filmy ferns. And hopefully I'll be able to point those out here. But we go on to the next one now.
Quite close.
Say Nick? Yeah, we're going. Everyone's going.
Right, ever onwards.
All the little symbols put in, like when the Roman civilization began, and when someone was, you know, Cleopatra or Napoleon, they have a whole lot of it, and it's fascinating, and the tree would be huge. But anyway, that's a quick way to calculate how old the woodland here is.
There's quite a few bridges on the walk. Well built stuff. We've caught up with a lot of the people. This is still the River Lee. There's no sign of the big fires that were going on yet, but I'm sure we'll see some evidence of it. Bridges are very well made though. Bailey's in his element. We've been walking slowly uphill, hugging the Lee River. It looks like we're going further on up, judging by the people ahead. Unfortunately, I keep missing Kevin's little talks on nature, but the group gets so split up. Not what I can do. Right.
I think. You saw from the map there's the option to go up this way here, which is very stepped and very crude. We stepped big rocks and steps and things like that. And the terrain then above wouldn't be as gravelled as this one here. So it's a bit more demanding. It goes right up. So if anyone wants to go, I'll go with them. Anyone who thinks they have enough of the tough ground, you go back down the track here and you just keep going. You should see from the map it'll bring you right back to the toilets inside in the middle of the car. So
Let's say we're going to do the short
the
walk.
option B, and
Unfortunately.
the top option A, up this way. So does anyone want to do A? Yeah. So anyone wants to start doing A, look, we'll get you over there and I'll go with you.
Can we wait for 5 minutes? There's just some more people coming up the track.
Yeah.
Behind us.
All right, yeah.
Which option is it?
The top
So this is the main road. Last time we were here, it was roadless. Shall we do a map reading? So I'd say we're beginning doing just the walk on the track home.
Have we everyone up? Coffee option. I just want to see how many have we. Gougane Barra. And anyone who wants to stay with the B option.
They'll find us. Yeah, they can
If we have a big man for the coffee option, I'll go with you. Stay with the easy option.
Oh yes,
So we're taking the easy option. I'll film a bit more in a bit. Big rock carved out. Still no evidence of the fires. Lots of clear cutting been going on, but there's no evidence of fires yet, considering the whole valley was supposed to be almost ablaze only a month or so ago, if that. But we haven't come across any yet. So the rest of the party have gone up further on up the mountain and because we've got the young fella just decided to walk down the road back to the car. We've got some good exercise anyway. It's just nice to be out, having a guided walk. It's a real good place. You don't want to be stuck up there in your underpants. Maybe this bit was on fire, but there's no evidence of it. Even the trees have got leaves on and stuff. Maybe stuff up the top there. Maybe that was burnt. A lot of the ferns would have taken over, so. Dogs are in their element as usual. So folks, we're back down at the entrance to the park. Well, certainly the toilet block. We did a good walk anyway. So that's our main walk done. Third of 3 good walks, all guided tours in aid of stopping a wind farm going in. Anyway folks, get out there, see your local environment, and don't forget to stay prepared.